Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Plus. Ever wondered who are the richy rich of India? We have the answers. According to Hurun Global Rich list, Mukesh Ambani has been ranked 9th on the Hurun Global Rich list and the richest man in India, followed by Gautam Adani and family, who are globally ranked at 23rd. Cyrus Poonawalla globally at 46th and Shiv Nadar and family at 50th. Lakshmi and Mittal and SP Ahuja and family shares the 76th rank on the list together. Dilip Shangvi and family at 98th rank, followed by Radha Krishan Damani and family at 107th rank. These are the top 10 Indian billionaires. Mukesh Ambani, Chairman and Managing Director of Reliance Industries, is the only Indian in world's top 10 billionaire list with a total wealth of $82 billion. Mukesh Ambani saw a dip in his fortune as his wealth fell 20%, but he has managed to surpass Gautam Adani. Now Adani, who lost $28 billion in wealth or 3,000 crores in just a week in 22-23 due to the scathing Hindenburg report, slipped to the second spot among Indian billionaires and currently holds a net worth of $53 billion. Even as the number of billionaires dropped by 8% globally, India added 16 billionaires and occupies third spot on the 2023 M3M Hurun Global Rich list among countries that added new billionaires. Those, of course, are big numbers there, and we have two very important people joining us very, very shortly. I think Hurun India Managing Director and Chief Researcher Anas Junaid is with us. Also with me in the studio at this point in time, Rakesh Kar. Rakesh sir, I want to come to you first at this point. It appears that India is shining bright once again as far as global rich list is concerned.
Well, I think, the rich list, as it's called, casts us in a very strange binary. The moment you talk about the numbers increasing, there is a loud cry against these rich people in this country. The total number is 187 for India, if I remember it correctly. And the total number of billionaires is 3119. Just put it in context, 3119 for a 8 billion population globally and 187 for a population of 1.4 billion people. So it's still a very small microscopic number. Should we be happy with it? Should we be sad with it? I think, as a country, we must be happy with the number increasing every year. We had a few dropouts, but we have few additions as well. We are number 3 in dropouts, number 3 in additions. Net, I think we are number 3 in the overall list. How do we look at it? I know there will be a lot of pessimistic view of is that, India, the richer are getting richer, poorer are getting poorer. I would like to contest that right away by saying that in the last, from 2004 till 2006 to 2019 and 2020, we have taken 41.5 crore people in India outside of the purview of the poverty. That's a very large number, 41 crore. It's, we need to do a lot more. We still have a lot of people who are poor. 16.5% is still poor in this country, out of which 4.5 are extremely poor. So how do we look at these three numbers? 4.5% of population being very poor or critically poor, 16% still poor, but 41.5 crore people have been lifted out of the poverty lines. And these are not numbers given by the Indian government, these are UNDP and World Bank numbers. So if you ask me, frankly, I would say far greater reduction in the poverty levels at one level, and a far greater rise in the number of billionaires. That's how we should define the India growth story. Okay.
We are yet to get through to our guests here who are supposed to join us on that very important story. But Rakesh, Indian billionaires have added nearly $360 billion to their cumulative wealth in the past 5 years. $360 billion is equivalent to Hong Kong's GDP.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. As I said, it's a data story is how much it reveals more than it conceals. So if I analyze this figure of the Indian billionaires' wealth being equal to GDP of Hong Kong, there's another way of looking at it. For instance, Jeff Bezos lost more than the combined wealth of Ambani and Adani. So there is a list in the same release that has been issued by Hurun today of massive losses that have happened in the billionaires list. So I don't think we should sit on an ideological quarrel with these numbers. We should say, let's aspire for more and more billionaires. Let's aspire for further, sharper, quicker poverty reduction in this country. The two don't, exist in divergence. They have to exist in convergence, where people are brought out of their poverty levels, and we have many more people getting rich. See, remember the fundamental economic principle: if there are wealth creators, then only they will be able to create more wealth. And let's also remember that 75% of India's GDP is in the private sector. If the private sector is rich enough, then only we'll be able to generate jobs, which in turn will take a larger number of this population outside of the poverty curse.
Okay. I want to talk about income divide in just a bit, but I'm told Pankaj Bansal is with us. Pankaj Bansal is the director of M3M Group, is joining us here. Pankaj, take us through the key takeaways, the salient features of this list.
I think this is very important for all the entrepreneurs to understand apart from the India growth story. I mean, everybody knows that ease of doing business in our country, the new vision which is laid by our Prime Minister is great. Entrepreneurs like us and industrialists like others present in our country who are part of the global rich list or who are part of the Indian rich list, they feel very happy working in the country. So it is great for us to get the real data, real facts, where the world is moving, which are the other sectors globally which have been performing, where the service sector, the financial services sector, wherein the real estate is amongst the top 10, but not amongst the top 3. So it gives us a great clarity in terms of, okay, which are the sectors one, as a businessman, one should focus on to be part of to be part and become a part of the rich list in the near future.
Okay. Now, absolutely. Yes, Rakesh.
Pankaj, congratulations on putting out the list today. It puts India billionaires in global context and global billionaires in Indian context. Tell me, the moment you release the list, there is a certain, what we call stipulated response about the inequality in this country. When you draw the list, how do you look at it yourself, framing the list? I just explained myself, my own view. I don't know whether you could hear me. I said that we need to have many more billionaires in India while we pull out many more people from poverty, below poverty line, and bring them into the mainstream. But how do you look at it framing the list?
My view, so that's actually done by Hurun India. My view, coming as a partner with Hurun India, is that okay, there is some platform which gives us transparent list and the basis and the data that is absolutely transparent for this list. And as an entrepreneur, as an entrepreneur in our country, who's working in the real estate sector and maybe other sectors in time to come, my viewpoint here would be that when we look at these lists and young entrepreneurs like me look at these lists, we get a lot of clarity in terms of the sectors which are performing globally vis-a-vis the sectors which are performing in our country. Where do we lack when it comes to the modernization, the support of government in terms of the business which we do? So as an entrepreneur, we do not look at the data. I mean, our focus is to look at the sector, which sector is performing sector and a non-performing sector, or wherein we can make more wealth and wherein we can make less wealth. So that is how, as an entrepreneur, we look at the list.
Before we move to the Hurun representative, I have a question for real estate. It's still under under tremendous pressure. There are some representatives from the real estate sector, but would you like to see many more? And when do you see that fair representation coming from this sector in the Indian context?
Okay. Is it for me to answer?
No, it was for M3M gentlemen, because I thought let's finish the real estate piece, then I'll come to you.
Okay.
So I thought it's for Anas. Okay, sorry, Anas. I think
no, that's okay. We'll speak to you.
In the global rich list, I don't think so. In the top 10, still there are people, and there are, I think, Anas, correct my number. There are how many people from the real estate sector in the global rich list?
Almost 177.
Only 177 people looking in. So this gives us opportunity and enthusiasm to people like us. So to become the part of list in the near future. And I think India is on a growth curve with ease of doing business, few other opportunities which have been taken by the government. So I think in the next year you will see many more real estate developers who will be part of this list. And post-COVID, we have already seen the complete downturn of the real estate, wherein it was not performing, and today it is one of the most performing sector, wherein we've also become the second job creator for our country. So I think my view is very clear. For the next year, we will have many more people from the real estate in this part of this list.
Okay.
Can I would just
absolutely, Anas.
I would like to add.
Yes, Anas.
Add to what Pankaj said. Just to give you a perspective, China has almost 100 billionaires from the real estate sector. Okay, and you know what the China's GDP is, possibly 3 to 4 times more than India is, and we as a country are aiming towards doubling the GDP by end of the decade, right? And that's the kind of plan that we have, and the per capita income going to increase over this period as well. For that to happen, there should be many more super value creating $1 billion businesses from India. Then And the billionaires is basically and effectively a function of these billion-dollar enterprises being built. That's one side of the story. Another side of the story is somewhere like US, which is possibly 1/4 of India's population, has only about 25 to 30 known uh, US dollar billionaires. Has 25 to 30 US dollar billionaires. Now, a country like India, which is 4 times out of US population, has possibly 12 billion-dollar enterprise, billionaires from the real estate sector. So it is this value creation, wealth creation, all that stuff. It kind of tells you a story of how a country is progressing over the next decade. So I always say this. So the M3M Hurun Global Rich List, it's like a photograph, right? You take the photo of the list launched in the first year, 2012, and look at where India is. India possibly had about 49 billionaires at that point in time. And then you take the photo every year and look at how that photo is progressing, right? So that gives you the story of the economy and puts the whole thing in a context. And what we're trying to do here is not really, we don't really care about the final value or the number and so on. What we are more interested in is about the story of how these numbers are created, how this wealth is created, and we can play our little part in terms of telling these stories and inspiring more wealth creators. So that's the whole idea.
Yeah, thank you for the context. Before I come into the sectoral play for the entire list in the Indian perspective, tell me, whenever the list comes out, as I said, it sets you in a certain context. There's this entire debate reignited about the inequality in this country. When you frame the list and present it, as the face of this billionaires in this country, how do you look at that, so to say, criticism? I personally feel that we need many more billionaires, we need many more people to be brought out from the poverty circuit into the mainstream. But the reality on the ground is that it's our political economy, our political ecosystem lends to this very, very interesting debate. And whenever the list comes, that debate gets reignited. So you to say you're at the receiving end, do you look at it that way?
I totally agree with your point in terms of what you said earlier. People debate about this rich-poor divide and so all that stuff, right? But fundamentally, what I truly believe in is there are two things. One is economic development, and second is economic prosperity, right? From an economic development perspective, people always say that if India hit GDP of, let's say, 10 trillion, there'll be a lot more billionaires. But the fact of the matter is only if we have many more billion-dollar enterprises can we hit a GDP of 10 trillion or 15 trillion or whatever. So if you have those many billion-dollar enterprises, the billionaires are going to be created. That is a fact of life, and it's going to happen. For the economic development in a democratic country like India, which is a free market, which lets entrepreneurs prosper, wealth creation is going to play a huge role, and number of billionaires is only going to increase. That's number one. The second, that is the economic development side. Now, the economic prosperity. What we would also like to see is wealth creation and is philanthropy catching up with the wealth creation, right? And so that is something that we like to closely track, and this is going to play in a wider economic prosperity as well. So, but again, this philanthropy can only happen when there is more billionaires created, and also India is in a very fast growing path. There could be a lot more super IPOs and cash out events and opportunity that might happen in the near future. And once that happens, you could see a lot more money going back as philanthropy. We are by default a very philanthropic society. So I really believe that talking about the stories of transparent wealth creators or these billionaires are very, very important to spread the message and inspire more into wealth creation. And
I think you made a valid
yeah,
point.
so
one way to blunt the possible criticism, which you can't do away with completely, is that as part of the rankings and the index, you also bring in giving back to the society. What we call globally, there's a debate about stakeholder engagement and shareholder engagement, or enrichment of both the faculties. So in that sense, or the corporate citizen quotient, is there a way that are you looking at building this capability in the index, where at least you say that suppose X person is a top billionaire, but he has also contributed to wealth creation in terms of generating jobs, giving back to the society. Is that an area of improvement for the rankings?
I think it's a very fair point. I think we put out a list called the Hurun India 500, wherein we speak about the tax paid, employment generated, and all those kind of information in the report. Maybe the next year, specifically to the rich list, we can also write about the companies that are run by these entrepreneurs and what are the kind of societal impact that these companies have made. That's a point that could very well be added.
The other point that I
But
felt,
end of the day,
probably I didn't read it that well because we've just got the numbers. The penetration of billionaires is, so to say, focused and concentrated on big metros. That, to my mind, is a failing. You know, the way India growth story is happening, it needs to be democratized in terms of its geographical location. Is that a failure? What is the possible cause, or have I read the data wrongly?
no, it's not a failure. You know, we must understand India is a 75-year-old country. If you look at the age of the country, so to speak, right? We are a teenager in terms of a country, right? We're not a very old country like that of China or the US and stuff. So we are very young in that perspective. So wealth creation, if from a hockey stick, we've just begun, sort of begun in India, right? Just to give you some perspective, we published we've been publishing the India Rich List over the last 12 years. And when we started the Rich List, we could find entrants from about 20 cities in India. Now we find about entrants from about 85 cities, towns, and all that stuff, right? So wealth creation is definitely spreading. I think it's just a matter of, you let the country grow. I mean, we should let the country grow and see how it achieve that transformation by moving from teenage to adulthood to maturity and so on. When you see that process happening with the GDP growing and all that stuff, you would see wealth being spread across cities for sure. That's
Junaid,
and
the numbers with
already,
you,
I can already see it. Yeah.
if you have the numbers with you, because can you please educate us on beyond 4 big metros? What are the other cities in the top rankings?
Of course, there is some place like Trichur is there. Then you've got Chennai is there. Then you've got Ahmedabad. Then if I go to the wider, smaller, rich list, basically this is a billionaires list. We also publish something called list of entrants with a net worth of 1,000 crores and above. There we have entrants from Udupi to Ludhiana to Vadodara, to, all those places, right? All the tier 2, tier 3, Coimbatore, a lot of places. So what would happen now is, this is M3M Hurun Global Rich List is a list of billionaires from India, right? And we also have the Rich List, which talks about anybody with a net worth of 1,000 crores and above. So over the next sort of 10 years, what you would see is the individuals with 1,000 crores and above, which comes from these 85 cities, towns, villages, those areas, right? They will all hopefully create more wealth, and they will all start eventually become part of the M3M Hurun Global Rich List, and you would definitely see cities spread. Some of the the city representation spread, but definitely it's not a failure. To answer directly on that question, it's not a failure. It is just a matter of the evolution of this process happening. From wherever, from to few cities to a more number of cities.
Right.
Currently, we have how many? We have about.
Anas, quite agree and concur with you that India is a relatively young democracy, and I think we'll take time. We'll get there eventually. But really appreciate you joining us on this bulletin at this point in time. Anas, Pankaj, thanks very much for joining us with all those details. Appreciate your time. We're going to move on. After being the top celebrity in terms of brand value for 5 consecutive years, Virat Kohli lost his spot this year to Ranveer Singh. This according to Kroll's latest celebrity brand valuation report. Actor Ranveer Singh emerged as the most valued celebrity of 2022 with a brand value of $181.7 million. Kohli's secured the second rank with a brand value of $176.9 million, and Akshay Kumar held a steady third position with a brand value of $153.6 million. Curiously, there is only woman sportsperson in the top 25. There's just one woman sportsperson, and that is PV Sindhu at number 23. So very interesting figures coming in there. With me in the studio continues to be Rakesh. Also joining me is Amit Ranjan. Amit, coming to you first, what according to you were the main reasons behind Virat Kohli losing his position?
Thank you, Shweta. This one is curious. Ranveer Singh has not had a good run at the movies in the last 1 year. The last 2 movies were disappointing duds at the box office. But despite that, so what I can make out from this survey is that he is held more as a style icon more than an actor. Okay. And that accounts for his following. He has curiously, he has gone up almost 115% in his brand value, while Virat Kohli has lost just a little bit from the 185 to 176. So that big jump explains a lot, raises quite a few questions, that it is not just about being successful at the box office that accounts for your celebrity brand value.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Harish Bijur, who is a brand strategist, is also joining us. Rakesh, I want to come to you first. What exactly led to Virat Kohli losing on his position after 5 straight years of being number one?
Shweta, first of all, I think, while we talk about these numbers, these are not absolute numbers, because these are, again, in the realm of perception. Because there's some science to it, but there's not all science to it. So in that sense, they can be counted upon and equally discounted as well. Talking about Virat Kohli, I'm reminded of the Yuvraj Singh ad. I don't remember the insurance company, whether it was for an insurance company, but he said, "Jab tak balla chalta, tab tak shaan hai," something like that. So Virat Kohli's performance with the bat has obviously not been at its peak. He's staged a comeback, and his performance, especially in the Test matches, has been extremely, patchy. While as it's improved in ODIs and T20s, he's just scored a ton after, I think, 2.5 years in Test matches. So when it comes to performance, core performance, Virat Kohli would himself be not very happy with what he has done in the recent past few months. Ranveer, on a lighter note, I think there's a massive rub-off of Deepika and the couple. So Deepika has also moved up quite a few inches in terms of her stature. Okay. And not that Anushka doesn't deserve to be there, but as a package, I think both of them are, scoring better. And the youth sports, I think the other key message here, whether you like it or not, is that sports versus entertainment. Entertainment still rules the mind space, and sports is more sporadic. If it's the India-Pakistan World Cup and that famous performance by Virat Kohli in the was it T20, if I remember correctly? Yes. Really created a huge. If you did a survey that day, he would have beaten all odds. But the matter of the fact is that entertainment is still far more captivative of the audiences that we are. We are still, starved of major entertainment. So when it comes to mainstream cinema, despite Bollywood not doing great, Ranveer is doing pretty well.
Okay. Let me come to Harish at this point. Harish, Ranveer Singh's brand value went up 115%. Now, this despite the fact that his films have not really done that well. How do you explain this? Rakesh is of the view that it's Deepika's magic working there.
Well, typically, these numbers don't matter, and they are just, if I'm to be very polite, I would say that these numbers are just floated around most of the time, and they're big perceptions for sure, as has already been said. But this business of Ranveer being ahead and then Kohli being just behind is all about 4-5 million. It doesn't make much of a difference. But the point is that there are just two games which lead India. One is cricket, and the other game is Bollywood. And sadly, it isn't Indian cinema, but it is what used to be called Bollywood. So if you look at it, I think there are big stars from the deep south who haven't yet come into the brand endorsement kitty or into the overall kitty. But if they do come in, you will see a lot of action here and a lot of traction. Because Bollywood seems to be so yesterday, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. These are perceptive numbers, and they still don't reflect the complete picture as they're supposed to. But a few very serious omissions are the triple R Natu combo there. I think if you do it a measurement today, would you agree, Harish, that they would really score high on the perception index?
Oh yes, very much. Because there is this business of saying there is India, then there is the Indian diaspora which consumes Indian cinema, and today there is a global diaspora of not only Indians but people everywhere looking out for an Oscar winner. And I think RRR on that score hits big stuff, and Kantara hits big stuff, and every star from there hits big stuff. And particularly considering the fact that, brand endorsement today is becoming a very regional game. It isn't about the big star anymore. It is about micro stars, and many of these micro stars are on social media. These are, social media icons. So, that's one of the reasons why I say that, ranking and ratings and numbers, these are so yesterday.
Okay. You know, it's interesting you mentioned that because there's no Salman Khan in top 10. Shah Rukh Khan barely made it to the 10th place on the index.
Yeah, I guess, if you really look at popular actors, again, how do they figure out that? Is it because of what Shah Rukh Khan did with this film, or is it because of what Ranveer does every day out of his films? So, a brand persona is assessed basis his art or craft or sport, and by everything that he, she, or they do outside of it. And
Okay.
what they do outside seems to matter a lot more than what they do in their relevant sport. Otherwise, Shah Rukh should have been there this year, for instance, particularly with the kind of a hit that he has had. And of course, our Natu stars, for sure.
Harish, the ever-changing business landscape where, corporates have to take the hard decision of spending money on a particular, brand endorsement, that landscape is changing every day, as you said, performance, brand value, morality, and, the overall, index. Besides these numbers, what are companies actually looking at if we had to list at 1, 2, 3 factors while deciding how much they spend on, say, Shah Rukh Khan or a Virat Kohli or a Ranveer Singh?
Okay, firstly, for instance, I do a fair number of recommendations of these stars. And when I do it, in the old days, I used to recommend the stars that we see on these lists. But I don't do that anymore. I look at micro stars. I say that a mega star is everything to everybody, and that does not resonate with a lot of people. Because when you're everything to everybody, you're nothing to any one body. And therefore, the micro brand endorsers are big people. So I don't look at the film stars, I don't look at the cricketers, because I do believe it's a humongous waste of money. Yes, what they bring to the party is awareness, which is, an awareness of a Ranveer will rub off on any brand that he talks about. But that's where it stops. After awareness, there are many crucial aspects, which is converting that awareness into an interest in the particular brand, stoking it into a flaming desire to buy that brand, creating the action of sale, and of course, maintaining satisfaction levels the way they should be. So the
Okay.
rest of the stuff, the interest, the desire, the action, and the satisfaction bit, none of these stars help with. Whereas a micro brand endorser is a full purpose persona. They bring in each of these elements, and if you're really creative and if you're strategic, you can build in each of these aspects into your advertising with the micro star. So I
Okay.
don't go for the big stars, I go for the small ones.
Talking about the big stars there, Amitabh Bachchan continued to be in the top 10. Amit, his brand value, despite the fact that he is over the age of 80, still remains intact.
Taking on from what Sir said, he's a mega star, so by that logic,
I don't think he's just that. I think he's far beyond that. I think he's a character.
I think his life is...
Okay. Yes, Amit.
Yeah, so
Yes, please.
I was saying, if he's a mega star, he should be actually everything to everybody and not any one thing, like Sir said. But he probably is one unique case where he still continues to be in the top 5, 6, 7 position for the last so many years, holds his position, and still, even at the age of 80 plus, does not seem to be stopping anywhere, or
Right.
in the near future at least, so
Okay.
it seems.
Okay, he's not losing his sheen. Let's play up those bites again. We recently tried to analyze what is behind Amitabh Bachchan's grand personality, the perception, the persona. Let's play those bites again.
People call him the biggest star. People call him a great actor. I don't think he's just that. I think he's far beyond that. I think he's a character.
I think his life is what dreams are made of, is what I would say.
When we were growing up and said there's a Bachchan film coming, you didn't ask what is the film.
Ask what is the film? That, of course, is the big message at this point in time. Harish continues to be with us. Harish, micro stars, we understand what they bring to the table, but macro stars still continue to, draw audience. If they still continue to draw large fans in. Harish, we've lost Harish at this point in time, so I'm going to come to you, Rakesh. They still continue to stand tall, and despite the fact that the micro influencer economy has really done well for us, because we've seen a number of small players really getting in the market, really catching the eyes of the and the ears of the audience and getting their attention and bringing them back to the brand.
I think, nothing taking away from the likes of Amitabh Bachchan and MS Dhoni. You saw MS Dhoni also. He hasn't tweeted,
Right.
he hasn't spoken, he hasn't played. He does his private endorsements and performs on the IPL track. Performance is a key factor, both in case of MS Dhoni and Amitabh Bachchan, in the way they present themselves as one integrated brand. The other thing is that no index can have any weightage, and so Amitabh Bachchan and MS Dhoni are part of hygiene. So I would say that, they lend credibility to any index, whatever it's worth. And there's so much to learn from, as our experts on News9 Plus mentioned, that Amitabh Bachchan is a dream run. So, it's very difficult to find that kind of example globally in that space where it's so competitive. Every day new stars come, yet Amitabh Bachchan is a reference point. Hats off to him, salute to him for his ability to reimagine himself. Not every decade, I think every minute he reimagines himself. He's unwell, he's tweeting about his status, so he's so much connected. Same with MS Dhoni, he's preparing for the IPL next month or the end of this month, and he's already won the title 4 times. We really don't know whether he's eyeing up a 5th title. So that's how it is. He already has the maximum number of global titles for India in the world of cricket, in the international arena. So that's where it is. Any index will have credibility if these two guys are there.
Okay.
And they also bring credibility to themselves by continuously performing and continuing to challenge.
Okay, and also I think perhaps lending some value to the fact that their age is just a number, Rakesh.
Age anyway is just a number.
Age is just a number.
Yeah.
We're going to shift focus to another interesting and important.
on age, I must, just brief, since we're doing a business update.
Okay.
At 59, TCS appointed its CEO for the next 6 years. People retire in private sector at 60, if they're lucky.
Okay. Okay. All right. We're going to move on now. We don't know if AI is going to take jobs just as yet. It definitely has presented new job opportunities. There are over 45,000 AI-related job openings in India, with employers willing to pay up to 45 lakh per annum. The careers high in demand are for data scientists and machine learning engineers. A new report has now revealed. The report by tech staffing company Team Lease has highlighted the growing demand for AI professionals who are skilled in scripting languages and are capable of developing scalable machine learning models. In fact, more and more companies are branching AI revolution. As many as 56% of companies surveyed said that they were taking necessary steps to bridge AI demand-supply gap. The findings highlight the increasing AI importance of skills and growing demand for AI professionals in the Indian job market. Artificial intelligence has been a hot topic since the launch of ChatGPT in November of last year, bringing greater attention to the immense possibilities and the challenges that the technology presents. Joining me at this point in time, Rituparna, who's the co-founder of Team Lease. Rituparna, thanks very much for taking time out. I want to begin by asking, what are the core AI skills that an average worker must have at this point in time, and what sort of core findings of the survey should one look out to or look out for when it comes to AI?
Yeah, so I think, thanks so much for having me on the show. I think artificial intelligence is par for course right now for every business, every sector, and every realm of our lives, I guess. So it's here to stay. And hence, of course, it creates immense opportunities, not just for different kinds of businesses, but even for the youth at large in terms of the kind of opportunities and jobs that it potentially can create. I mean, besides some of the numbers that you already have cited from the report, I think some of the essential skills which are currently in demand are around data visualization, data analytics, DB query languages, deep learning, NLP, different kinds of uses of statistical tools, very high-end statistical tools. I think just to quote a few. So I guess, and I think we are still exploring. We are still at a stage where we're still getting to know of the potential of AI and what are the different kinds of subsegments and skill sets that would be in demand. But at the moment, I think we are essentially looking at a segment where globally it is currently about $136 billion business. It will actually touch by 2030 to a size of almost 10 times of that number. And it has its own consequences because India stands to be one of the biggest beneficiaries, because India has probably the third largest talent pool across the globe around this area, and Bangalore specifically probably has the second largest pool of AI professionals. And having said that, I think right now the supply is very much less than the demand or the emerging demand. So I don't know if that gives you a perspective. That's where we are right now.
Okay, Rituparna, one quick question before I let you go. Are these 45,000 jobs immediately available? How longer a time period are we looking at? When will these jobs be created? And what sort of skills do we need for us to be able to fill these job vacancies?
Yeah, these at the face of it, these jobs are available at this point of time. I think two of the most popular jobs right now which are available are that of data scientists and ML engineers. However, I must say that the quantity of supply and the quality of supply right now is far from what employers wish for. So but then it's a good problem to have. As long as there is demand, I feel that the entire ecosystem of education, skilling, and self-learning will probably evolve, where we'll probably get closer to kind of fulfilling some of these open positions or vacancies that exist.
All right, Rituparna, thanks very much for joining us. I want to come to you, Rakesh, at this point in time. Should a tech employee be worried today with the constant progress in AI?
No, I think the march of technology, nobody can stop it, not even regulation, not even the policymakers. So let's be cognizant of that. There is a need for upskilling and then reskilling and relearning the entire module to be able to survive and sustain oneself. On the AI piece, I want to draw the larger context. I think we've been a little late in catching the advantage that's possibly accruing to India. India was among the first few countries. About I think 5 years ago, the government of India set up an AI mission with Niti Aayog, and Professor Kamakoti at IIT Madras did a full report. So I do remember one of the key recommendations was that bringing in AI as part of the curriculum at major engineering and technology institutes in this country. I think we saw that, we heard that, probably we didn't implement it as well. Had that been the case, then India would be ready to really partake of this huge opportunity, because globally AI, whether it's in America or it's in all developed economies, AI and data science and machine learning are three major pillars of jobability when it comes to the top cluster of jobs. They're now replaced as the cream jobs, and that scenario is coming to India, because India's inherently placed strongly because of our technology plus point. But have we been able to harness that? I don't think we have yet brought in this particular faculty in our colleges and campuses. Second, the National Skill Development Council, there's a very active body that has been, so to say, activated in the last few years. It has sectoral skill development courses for automobiles, for pharma. So I think it needs to bring in this particular discipline as well if we are really able to partake of this opportunity. I think she's right, the team leads resource, who mentioned that it's a good problem to have, but we should be able to quickly mount the talent at the bottom of the pyramid and then really have them have a go at the market, at the job market.
Okay. Amit is also with me in the studio at this point. Amit, run us through the latest developments with AI. What advancements have we seen with ChatGPT now, advanced version, which is called GPT-4, also coming through? What exactly should we be worried about? What exactly should we be prepared for when it comes to advancements with generative, pre-trained transformer languages?
Oh, this is actually good news that AI, which everybody thought would be taking away jobs, is actually creating jobs. But there is a race towards in the AI section worldwide, and taking on from what Rakesh said, India is a little behind, and what we should be worried about is that how much behind are we? China is a curious example. They are putting in billions of dollars in quantum computing, a part of AI. But on the other side, they had a forgettable demo of their chatbot Ernie last week, due to which Baidu's shares tumbled. What I want to ask Rakesh is, can China lead the AI revolution on its own with its own domestic market, or will it also lose out?
See, we must compliment China for the never say die attitude. Though they have a relatively poor track record when it comes to modern science. I don't want to be judgmental, but the vaccine case study is right in front of us. India did well because we, surely collaborated as part of a global alliance at the Oxford with Adar Poonawalla, and the results are there for everyone to see. India is a global leader today in setting the benchmark. Coming back to your question, I think they've invested in the curriculum in AI. That will bear results sooner or later. Of course, they try and they fail. I think that formula should apply to any country, more so to India. But we cannot just sit back and just tie our hands and say that we are a technology leader, we have a demonstrated experience, and we thought of it earlier, but we haven't been able to follow up with the immediate action. So as I said, and I keep saying in the Indian growth story context, stay ahead of the curve, don't do catching up.
Okay, stay ahead of the curve. That's the big message coming in. We're going to move on. We're short on time. Shifting focus to another important story. The CAPA India Aviation Summit 2023 in the capital witnessed various stakeholders from aviation sector converge and brainstorm about challenges and opportunities in the most happening and talked about sector. With the sector rebounding after COVID-19 pandemic blow, there is a positive buzz and expectations that the new airports and significant section of population taking to skies for the first time. There are also many positive takeaways from the summit. My colleague Shweta Kothari was there to get a ringside view of major talking points in the sector. Listen in.
We are at the CAPA India Aviation Summit 2023. Today is the last day and we were able to catch up with two leading personalities in the Indian aviation infrastructure space. Let's see what they had to say.
The exponential growth is there. So compared to many other airports in the world, airports like Delhi have already superseded the traffic levels of 2019. I think the Indian airports are doing overall a very good job. If you compare this with the European airports that had huge summer problems in the summer, I have to say that airports in Asia, in India, are doing very well. And this is proven by the fact that in terms of quality of the service have been awarded by ACI through the AESQ program for the service provided to the customers.
So we have 144 million passengers at this point of time and we are set to grow at a very rapid pace. Yeah. But customer is the king is something which is steeped in the books only, and in practice quality, a lot of consumer facing services in India, they are not able to offer the highest qualities. Do you think airports in that way in India have managed to get a good reputation or positive reputation in that context?
Again, the awards are there to demonstrate that an objective panel of experts have considered Indian airports to having improved in terms of quality of the service. Of course, investments are needed, and investments are needed because, as you say, whenever you have spaces which are crowded, the complexity increases. And this is what airports have to do, working in the long term for improvements.
How do you rate, apart from the Delhi airport, obviously you rate that highly, and we've won, the Delhi airport has won many accolades for the services provided. How do you rate the airports in other metro cities, and what is your suggestions to improve airport services in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities? Because that is where the government is trying to focus on with the UDAN scheme.
Yeah, so it's a collective effort of many stakeholders. The process passengers go through imply the engagement of ground handlers, of custom immigration, airport operators, and more. So it's through their collaborations that the customers can really see improvements. In terms of the connectivity aspect, of course, the plan is ambitious. The propensity to fly is still relatively low compared to other countries in the world, but the disposable income of Indian people has increased. So this means huge opportunities for all these stakeholders.
Taking from that point, the government is also placing emphasis on air connectivity, but somewhere down the line pricing. Do you think, obviously India's disposable income levels have shot up in the recent years, and there's a section of the population which now travels by air, shunning railways. How do you think we can get the airlines more than the two leading operators and other lines to come into the fray? And how can the government also support those initiatives?
Airport operators, as many other operators involved in aviation, needs predictability. If you have a good plan and the government is providing that plan, you will have more parties interested in investing in the sector. So I think that this is having, again, the right, appropriate framework for building in the long term, for improving the long term is what we need. And the Minister of Civil Aviation was very clear of the targets he wants to achieve in the short and medium term.
In that context, do you think one entity has got majority of the rights of operating the airports? How do you see that from a operating or a business standpoint of view, considering that the government is trying to spread the net wide in terms of getting more companies or more aviation companies on board?
Well, India embarked into a process of privatization quite a long time ago, and he has improved, the concession agreements over the years. So I think that this is a lesson that they have very well learned. That levels have increased during COVID, so more private investors will be needed. This is what I foresee, and of course, again, a consultation with the key players, understanding what are the rules of the games will be helpful. Airports Council International, of course, can facilitate this process because our members in the airport operators community are both public and private. There are airport groups that are also key players in our association.
Final question. There are eye-popping projections for the Indian aviation sector, and that sounds very good on paper. What do you think are the challenges, if I can just ask you in a sucking format?
I think, I can understand the point of view of the consumer that always expect the best service possible, the most affordable service possible. But I think that it's important that all stakeholders, including the institutions, address the topic of environment from now and do it aggressively. And even here we share the point of view of the Minister of Civil Aviation to make sure that more airports will reach carbon neutrality in the short and medium term. Again, Airports Council International, through the Airport Carbon Accreditation Program, is there to make this improvement possible.
Ahmedabad, when we took over, was passenger traveling through the airport were higher than AI, but we have expanded already. So we have done a lot of the terminal one. I mean, the capacity is defined by two, either the runway or the terminal. But most of the terminal which we took over, the smaller ones, were limited in terminal capacity. So we had to do measures to expand the capacity, more security area, more security lines, and all those things we have. Because it's a physical space, you can have any number of people, but it's a passenger inconvenience. It's not a matter of putting more passenger through the terminal. Passengers should have seamless experience. So when I talk about terminal, you need to have enough security lanes, enough baggage handling claims, enough CISF stuff. So whole thing we are working with all agencies to expand the capacity. Guwahati, there is no space to put more baggage handling and everything, so we are building completely new terminal.
So the government is talking about putting more airports out for operation and management by private
I hope you ask the minister on Monday.
They are talking of 25 and the first phase is 11 airports. Would the group again wait for this?
And what are your thoughts on the pairings of these airports? That they're coming up with a pairing strategy.
Yeah, so look, we have not seen the bid document yet. So what we need to study is once the bid document come out, how the tariff will be filed, because they are pairing one, what they call it, main airport and one other airport in the city, smaller airport. So once the tender is out, we need to study how this will work.
What will you look for? Because of this is a new thing, and
just to understand how the tariff will apply, because tariff can't be same for both airport, or will it be same? We don't know. So once the tender document is out, we will study and then we will make a strategy. Our strategy is simple to create a scale. So if the bid condition is right for us, we will bid.
So a smaller airport means a greater risk, and the government will need to cover
not
that
necessarily.
more.
India has a very ambitious plan with Udan scheme and all, and with the regional aircraft carrier. So I think we will look at the merit of the airport, merit of the potential of growth. We all are talking about that the total passenger capacity will go 1 billion plus. So it will not only be in Delhi and Mumbai or Calcutta or Bangalore, it will be at regional airports also. So we have to see the conditions of the RFQ. We need to see how the tariff will be applied. We will have to calculate how much capex we need to invest. And if it makes financial sense, we will bid.
And did you give some figure about 350 capacity, million passengers capacity?
No, so what I said is if you look at our 6 airport with our master plan, what we have submitted to the AI, we will have a capacity of around 130, 140 million. If you look at Mumbai is already a capacity of around 50. And Mial, which is the new terminal, we have committed to have a passenger capacity of 90 million. So if you add all these together, it comes to that number in next 10 years.
For the next 10 years?
Yeah, because
in 10 years it will be 130 to 140 million.
No. 3 different buckets, 6 airports. Then you have Mial. Mumbai, we can't expand beyond what it is. There is no capacity. And Mial, we are building a terminal capacity, eventual terminal capacity of 90 million passengers. Phase 1, which will launch in December 2024, is going to be 15 million.
All right, those are the big takeaways from CAPA India Summit. And that's all we have in this bulletin. Thanks for watching.